Pre-K education is an issue Indiana lawmakers have been discussing. South Bend's City Council itself has pledged funding in the 2018 budget toward increasing access to local pre-K programs. The South Bend Tribune mentioned that one of the budget items listed $100,000 to increase access to pre-K schooling. Why do you think this is an important issue for South Bend residents?
There's a sense of, if not us, then who? The South Bend Community Schools, of course, have responsibilities from kindergarten through secondary education, but they don't have a lot of resources that enable them to meet all of the need on pre-K. And so we feel that we're able to provide a supplement in what's basically a mixed delivery system here in South Bend. You got federally funded Head Start, you got Title I dollars being used by the school corporation, you got private pre-K, and yet we know there's a need, and we've sized it to be in the hundreds at the very least.
Buttigieg says that the focus will be on increasing the quality level of the city's programs.
So here in Indiana, there's the Paths to Quality system. Early childhood providers can be certified on a level from 1 to 4, which indicates the level of enrichment and curriculum. It starts at a basic level that makes sure that there's simply standards around things like safety that are met. It goes all the way up to level 4 that indicates that you have a program of the highest quality. What we're most interested in right now is finding ways that we can help some of the existing providers move from, let's say, a 1 to a 2, or a 2 to a 3, or a 3 to a 4.
According to the State of Indiana Family and Social Services, 46 pre-K programs in South Bend that are at a level 3 or 4 are within 10 miles of the city's center. The U.S. Census Bureau reports that 28% of South Bend residents are below the poverty line. One of the goals of the funding is to improve the access gap that especially affects South Bend's urban population.
A very powerful tool to address generational inequality, racial and other gaps in opportunity is through education. And so we think that by making sure that we have more quality pre-K available, then as we continue to look at sources of funding and expanding the number of kids who get access to these seats, that it is going to make a difference in addressing some of those inequalities of opportunity that we face as a community. The city's been very active in this, from trying to gather more data about what the level of inequality actually is, to initiatives like President Obama's My Brother's Keeper program, which is really focused on making sure that there's equality for young men and boys of color who are statistically at such a high risk for bad outcomes. So really this is about making sure everybody has the same shot. And one of the best things we can do about that is to start early. When you get a kid off on the right start, they're going to be more likely to hit those third grade reading levels that we watch so closely, more likely to graduate on time, and there's a lot of evidence that their earning power goes up over a lifetime as well. So in the end, it's really not an expense, it's an investment.
According to the U.S. Census Bureau, roughly 42% of 3 to 4-year-olds in South Bend are enrolled in a pre-K program. Of those children, around 69% are in a publicly funded pre-K program. So it looks like there's a demand for publicly funded preschool programs, but only less than half of preschool-aged kids are actually enrolled in pre-K. Do you think that this is just an issue that can be solved with increasing the access to pre-K, or do you think the public may not fully be aware of the benefits of having a pre-K education?
I think we definitely have some work to do selling this concept, making sure that taxpayers understand that this is probably the single best investment that we can make when it comes to a long-term benefit that we see at a human level and at a financial level. The only permanent long-term answer, in my view, is a comprehensive statewide or even national pre-K solution that really makes it available to everybody. But the one thing I've learned in city government is it's not a good idea to wait on the state or federal capital to solve some of our issues. That's why we're taking this step now, even as we start seeing some of the pilot funds come for the On My Way pre-K effort that the state is launching, and hopefully down the line more support from the state and perhaps even federal level.
And what kind of support would you like to see from the state and federal levels?
In an ideal world, we begin to understand that pre-K education is as important as kindergarten. But remember, Indiana's behind the curve. We were pretty late to the game in getting all-day kindergarten in the first place. So making sure that we not only make up for lost time on that front, but also make it understood that this should at least be an option. I don't want to send the message that we think we've solved this with a line item in the budget. But what we do think is that the city can make a difference, and we think the city has an obligation to make a difference, to stand alongside our public school corporation and our public and private mixed delivery system. We're also going to learn a lot as we go, and so we'll see what happens as we deploy these early funds, and that may point the way toward other actions that we should be taking in the future.